What is up, Buffalo Fanatics? Z-Bot here with you, live on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel on a Monday morning. And that, of course, can only mean one thing. It is the smoke break coming after one of the worst football games I have ever seen in my entire life. I don't care what level. I don't care if it was Pop Warner, high school, college, pro, regular season, preseason, postseason. That was about as bad as it gets, folks. That was about as atrocious a ball as you could possibly watch. And we had the privilege of watching our Buffalo Bills be on the wrong end of it. 38-0 preseason week 2 from the Windy City. The Chicago Bears win it. And wow, I mean, my God. We'll try and talk about it, I guess. What the hell was that? What in God's green earth was what did we watch? What did we witness last night? That was something else. I cannot for the life of me believe I stayed up till 11:15 and watched the entirety of that thing. I need to reevaluate my life after what I witnessed last night and the fact that I subjected myself to the entirety of that. 38-0. The Chicago Bears beat the Buffalo Bills in preseason week 2. The start of the game was led by the Chicago Bears starters, including, of course, Caleb Williams, led out by new head coach Ben Johnson. Live broadcast, or national broadcast, rather. Joe Davis, Greg Olson, Pam Oliver. You had Julian Edelman out there with his Gucci slippers on pregame. You know, the world was the stage last night, I suppose. I mean, God bless you if you watch the whole thing. If you're not the most rabid Bills fan in the world, there's no way you didn't turn that game off after the first quarter. But even us diehard Bills fans, what kept us hanging on? I mean, what kept us watching? Seriously. God bless you if you hung on for that whole thing, because I did, and I really don't know why I did. It wasn't until I walked into the bathroom mirror, or walked into the bathroom to brush my teeth before bed, that I looked in the mirror and I looked at myself and I go, man, what is wrong with you? I mean, seriously. You know, no one's going to steal your Bills fandom card if you would have just hit the power button on that one at half. And I mean, who didn't want to do it? Who did not want to do that? I mean, Divine's coming in. He did it. Who's going to blame Divine? Not I. Divine says I turned it off at halftime. No way I was ruining my work schedule for that. See, you're way smarter than I am, Divine. I should have done it. There was something about me that with my curiosity was just like, man, you know, are they going to at least show us a little more effort in the second half? I guess. No, that wasn't the case. It was 28-0 at half. It wound up finishing 38-0. You know, I was going to do this show last night. Rico went ahead and did one. I was going to do it last night. I told them, I said, I got to sleep on this one. I got to think of at least a couple of things to talk about. Positively. I basically said I got to sleep on this one. Now, once again, let me preface as I always do. It is the preseason. I really don't care. Like, I really don't care. It's tough to care about that because, frankly, who on the field seemed to really care? Honestly. I mean, it's really tough to care about what you witnessed in that game, because it doesn't matter in the slightest. The Bills were on nearly this much of a lopsided loss to this exact same team a season ago. They won 13 games. I'm not really all that concerned about it, but it is kind of disheartening. Midway through August, you got a lot of these guys out on the field trying to make a roster, and you would never be able to tell. I mean, the effort level was just putrid. That was what was really discouraging. You have some guys out there. You didn't really have any starters out there at all outside of a couple of guys. And you have some guys that are on the fringe really trying to make a name for themselves and make a roster, and you would never have been able to tell. I mean, it was just not even close. The competitive comparison between the second and third string from the Bills and the second and third string from Chicago, it wasn't even comparable. And now, you know, we have the the joint practice to lean back on this past weekend. It sounds like the Bills did some really good things in Chicago from those joint practices, right? Keon Coleman looking really good. Joey Bosa looking really good. The defense in general looking really good. But as far as what we were able to watch on that Saturday or that Sunday evening's preseason week 2 game, I mean, there's really not a whole lot you can take away from that had you feeling even a little bit, positive. And I'm seeing the comments rolling in right now, and that's probably where we'll start here. And it's talking about the defensive depth, right? Drew D coming in. Our depth is horrible. Every other 31 team in the league looks better. Well, I don't know if we can say that yet. But I'll tell you one thing. The depth on Sunday night in that game against the Chicago Bears was awfully concerning. And what has me the most concerned about it, as Kyle comes in, he says our depth looks scary, right? Look at what scares me the most about it is the fact that I was singing the praises of this defensive depth as recently as Friday or Thursday or whatever. I mean, did it not feel as though the Bills were put up in the best position they've been in a while in terms of defensive depth? Between the additions made in the draft, the offseason acquisitions by Bean and free agency, and then in conjunction with what they've already had on the team, it felt as though the depth was going to be a strong suit for once. You finally had some decent potential on the depth chart in the secondary, it felt like, on the D-line, the linebacker position. It's just one game. It's a preseason game. They don't count for much of anything, and in the grand scheme of things, we'll probably forget this even happened 3 weeks from now. I mean, when I tell you we'll forget about it, it'll literally probably be erased from our memory. Thank God, because I'm waiting for that to be just completely eliminated from recollection. But the one thing that we were feeling confident about going into the season was the defensive depth, and that's something we haven't felt very confident about in some time, and something we were hoping we could feel confident about because of the amount of defensive injuries this team has unfortunately sustained throughout the last several years. And you can argue it's been one of their biggest issues, preventing them from making a Super Bowl. Just not having the right guys out there at the right time, the key guys out there at the key time, right? And once again, let me preface, my man Brian Bowers is doing a good job of doing it for me right now, and this is the one thing we have to keep in mind, right? Can we pump the brakes? Preseason means absolutely nothing. Many playoff teams have gotten smoked in the preseason. Don't take much from this, and I'm not going to take much from this. And I don't think anybody else should really either. But the one thing you really can't help but take away from this, and this is the reality, is the guys you saw out there on the field against the Bears on Sunday night, defensively at least, were the guys that you were excited about in terms of a depth role should they be needed. Those were guys out there that you were looking forward to seeing what they could be bringing to the table if their number is called upon. Or guys that were out there that could potentially be starters, like a DeMar Hamlin, right? Or a guy that could be getting time that everybody would love to see get time in Joe Andreessen, right? But you're watching that performance defensively. I don't, like I said, I don't care what level or what's at stake. I haven't seen a secondary get shredded like that, maybe ever. Preseason, postseason, regular season, Pop Warner, flag football. I mean, I don't care. I haven't seen a defense get worked like that in a minute. And that speaks to the effort level, unfortunately. Sean McDermott was asked about this post game. He was basically asking, the tackling wasn't very good. It seemed like the reporters were doing a decent job of dancing around, just flat out asking, like, Sean, what the hell was that, really? I mean, that's what it felt like. And McDermott seemed pissed, did he not? I mean, I don't know if you watched the post. I don't know how you couldn't be pissed if you're him. It's one thing to be a fan and you're watching that and you're like, my God, that sucked, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you're the head coach. You're watching these guys try to make the roster here. You're looking to see what you have from a depth situation, from a depth perspective, right? You're watching this. You're hoping that at the very minimum, you're getting the most out of your guys, whether they're getting rolled or not. And it didn't feel like that. And you could tell by the demeanor of McDermott postgame there. I mean, he was pissed. And I don't blame him. Who cares if it's the postseason or not? You just got basically zero effort from the guys that should be giving you maximum effort because their roster spots aren't confirmed. Far from it. I mean, that defense got just absolutely eviscerated in that ball game. The defensive front was barely able to get off the ball, it felt like. They were generating next to no pressure. There were a couple of shining moments here and there, but in totality, they really were unable to get anything going. And then that was able to kind of stem down into the secondary, which, like I said, I don't know what to say about it. The middle of the field, you could have driven a Mack truck through the middle of the field from snap one to the end of the game. The beginning of the game with Caleb Williams in there, I mean, there were how many throws to a tight end on that first drive resulted in 15-plus yards, where there was just not a single person within the frame of the camera on the route. I mean, hey, you know what? Bravo. Good for the Bears. They needed this. They needed the PR boost because they were getting ripped, right? You all seen the video of Caleb Williams throwing the ball at the mesh target in practice, didn't hit a single one of them. Then he freaks out after missing the final one. All we've heard from camp thus far from the Bears is that it just doesn't look like it's supposed to, right? It doesn't look like Caleb Williams is taking that step. So good for them, right? I mean, they really needed this PR boost. You'll turn in this morning to whatever you watch or listen to, and there'll be some anecdotal statements how the Bears are back, right? And they're on the upward trajectory. I mean, good for them. They took advantage. I can't fault them for coming out there and being competitive. Can't fault them for going out there and giving it their all and showing up. But it really does mean nothing. And the Bears needed this far more than the Bills did. But I will say, from the perspective of the depth on defense, that was what was concerning to me. You got guys like Buffalo Joe out there, Damar Hamlin out there, Codrington out there. Your rookie class up front defensively, it just was not good. It was just not good. I was unfortunate. It was unfortunate to see Buffalo Joe perform that way. A guy that I think has really been stepping up and really making a push for linebacker 3, right? We've heard a lot of great things about Joe Andreessen out of camp. I thought he looked good against the Giants in that preseason game. The coverage from the coverage from Joe Andreessen in that game was noticeably poor. And it wasn't just him, by the way. It was just the entirety of the coverage. No matter who was in coverage, it felt like they were losing. Codrington was out there the majority of the game. It just felt like, unfortunately, he was on the wrong end of several gaps in coverage. Damar Hamlin, same thing. I thought Jordan Hancock looked pretty good for a bit until he got hurt. That was the other thing that really sucked, too. There was like 3 bright spots in the game. One of them was Jordan Hancock. The other one was Frank Gore Jr. Both had a mistake by the end of it. Jordan Hancock got hurt. Frank Gore Jr. fumbled that reception. Sean saying, "But you can't say it means nothing, then say it's concerning about depth. It's either meaningless or not." I mean, come on, Sean. It's 99.9% meaningless. The 0.001% of that game that you have concern about in the grand scheme of the season is the depth. The guys you're watching out on the field are going to be in rotation in situations in which you probably aren't hoping they're going to be out there, right? The reason those guys are going to end up being out there is going to be because of injury. I mean, like I always allude to with my main man, Colin Coward, who says it all the time, one of my favorite sayings. Nothing is everything. Everything is, or nothing is, what's the exact phrase? Nothing is everything, but everything is something. If we're on the scale of meaningless to meaningful, we are on a heavy tilt towards meaningless. But everything means a little bit of something, a little bit. And I think what you watched on Sunday night there was just the lack of effort that has to have Sean McDermott concerned. I mean, I think that they'll get that turned around by the time you have the guys out there vying for a Super Bowl, the main cast. I'm not concerned about it. They've oftentimes been one of the more, just in terms of showing up and giving effort, I've never questioned it from the Sean McDermott-led Bills. I haven't. But you're watching guys out there that are fighting for a spot, and that's what I thought was concerning, because those guys are the ones that you think would be giving the absolute maximum effort, right? But the reason you're not, or the reason it's meaningless is because the guys out there are not going to necessarily be the ones that you're going to be relying upon for these Bills to be who you're hoping they're going to be. The reason there's some meaning to it, though, is because there are a couple of guys that were out there that could end up being in the rotation, that could end up being relied upon at some point. Injuries or not, just in terms of rotation. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Year in and year out, we've seen a rotating door on the defensive side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills. So you really have no idea when that is going to come about and why. But if you're watching that game and you're talking about guys like a Buffalo Joe, right, like a Damar Hamlin or a Condrington, Landon Jackson, whoever, really, you're watching that and you're just like, man, you know, I haven't watched a game in a while, preseason or not. I haven't watched a game where I literally was just like, man, just call it. Like, just call it. When Brandon Beane got in the booth, with Joe Davis and Greg Olsen, I was hoping to God he would just call it. I was hoping Beane would convince them to just end this thing. You ever played a sport growing up and you hit the mercy rule and they wound up doing the running clock? They would do it in lacrosse. If you were up by if you end up getting up by like 10 goals, it would be a running clock. They'd no longer stop the clock for like going out of bounds or calling a timeout or someone throwing the ball in the parking lot or whatever. I mean, that's what that should have been. And that should never be the case. You should never get worked like that. Mike Bunt tweeted something out last night. This was one score away from the worst loss in preseason history. Did you know that? This was, if the Bears, and by the way, it essentially was the worst loss in preseason history because the Bears needed out on the 5-yard line. If the Bears would have ran the ball in for a touchdown, which they easily could have, the way they were carving up and down the field, and they were right on the goal line, essentially. If they would have just punched it in, this would have been the most lopsided game in preseason history. Once again, does it mean anything? No, but like, do you really want to like kick your ear off on that end? Like, no, not really. If you could choose, I think you'd much rather not be on the end of one of the worst preseason losses in history. Where the hell is my notebook? Hold on, I got to grab my notebook. I wrote down some notes on this game until I just decided to give up. Let me grab that. I got the notebook out. I was like, you know what? We're going to see some stuff. We'll have our eye on a few guys tonight. We'll write some things down. I mean, man, I closed this thing up at the end of the first quarter. I knew what that was going to be. The thing of it is, too, this is the thing. I know it's easy to get lost in the idea of, well, the Bears played their starters. That's why it looked the way it did. Yeah, that was the first 2 drives. The rest of the game was an even playing field. That's where I was kind of like, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to think that game was the way it was because Caleb Williams and the starters were out there to begin it. And granted, they scored instantaneously. They went like 90 yards in 6 plays. But the rest of the game was an even playing field. And that, to me, was like, you have a really great, or so you thought, I mean, so you think, rather. Like, you have a really great rookie class here that you have a lot of high expectations for, that you're awfully excited to see. And you're watching that out there on the field against their similar caliber players and their rookies and whoever else, and you get the doors blown off you. I mean, with as big of a rookie class as the Bills currently have here, invested on the defense the way it was, you're more critical of the defensive angle here in the offseason than maybe you have been in years past because of the amount of new. And you're out there on an even playing field, and you got Tyson Bagent just carving you like a pumpkin. I mean, Bagent looked better than Caleb Williams. I mean, it's not like Caleb Williams went out there and was like, oh, my God, we've been waiting to see this. Oh, boy, vintage USC Caleb Williams. I knew he'd be back. I mean, no, Tyson Bagent was like the best player on the field last night. You see that play he made on 4th down? It was terrific. It was an even playing field for 95% of that game. Here are the notes. And I resorted to just doodling after a while. I'm like, come on. Every Bears drive, I had a note that says, secondary shredded. I gave up after 3 Bears drives. I called it after 3 of them, but all 3 just say secondary shredded. The main takeaway was really the middle of the field. The middle of the field being wide open. The inability to get after the passer. And how those two kind of correlated together. I mean, if you're thinking back on it, I mean, seriously, when's the last time you've seen a secondary just get shredded like that? And we're talking about guys here, you know, back there that you were hoping to see something from for sure. I mean, I know Jordan Hancock got hurt, and I was, you know, somewhat pleased with what we saw from him before he went down. But like Codrington, you know, DeMar Hamlin had a really rough go of it in the beginning. Cole Bishop, I know he only got like a dozen snaps, but they were not high quality reps at all. And that's a guy you're really looking out for, right? Cole Bishop going into year 2, expectations seem awfully high. I know he's been injured, but a lot of high expectations for Cole Bishop. That didn't look great at all. Derek Forrest, newly added, that didn't look good. I mean, I'm not trying to dog on any one individual here, because there really wasn't one individual that was, you know, there's not one individual really on that entire team last night that was not deserving of criticism. Seriously. If I could think of 3 of them, I mean, I can't even think of one of them, honestly. Tyrell Shavers was phenomenal. If there's one guy that I kept watching that game for, it was him. We'll get to the offensive side of things in a second. I thought Frank Gore was great too, but he fumbled that reception, so it was kind of like, damn, you know, they were finally putting a decent drive together. He looked great, and then they couldn't do anything right, really. That was a microcosm of the game. Even when they started to get a couple of things going right, you know, they couldn't. I've been seeing some comments in here too, by the way, and I agree. Brad Robbins, I think, did he not have the best? He was the MVP of the Buffalo Bills. Brad Robbins, the punter for the Buffalo Bills, was the MVP of the night for the team. 6 total punts, nearly 300 net yards on those punts. He was averaging about 50 yards a punt. I know there's been some, you know, it's been up in the air what that's going to look like this year, the punt situation. I know it's one thing we don't really care about all that much. We're hoping we don't punt the ball very often. And now with the ball starting at the 35-yard line, and we having Josh Allen being 20 yards removed from a field goal attempt, you're hoping you don't see Robbins out there much at all. But he was out there plenty in that preseason week 2 game, and I thought he looked great. If there was one thing that stood out, it was like, okay, Bills got a punter. Bills can punt the ball. And obviously, you know, when you're talking about that, it was a rough watch. But hey, you know, the preseason is just as valuable for the punter as it is for anybody else. And that was a good takeaway for the Buffalo Bills, watching Brad Robbins boot that thing. He can punt the ball as good as you'd hope. Thought he looked really good. But, you know, it was just the guys that are on the fringe there, the guys you're hoping to look and see something with that frustrated you, I think. You know, Buffalo Joe, Derek Forrest, DeMar Hamlin, Cole Bishop, those are the names of guys that you're looking to have roles on this team beyond a preseason week 2 game, and you just were not satisfied in the slightest with what you saw at all. Buffalo Joe, once again, unfortunately, in coverage to me, stood out like a sore thumb. That was the majority of those really deep and easy catches for the tight end. They were just right over the top of him. When it comes to stopping the run, he's all over the ball. He's got an innate ability to sniff out the ball. That's what I really like about him. It's Matt Milano-esque in that way, where they're just great in terms of their instincts in hunting down the football, the ball carrier, and then just having no care in the world other than putting that guy on the ground. The coverage, though, was concerning in a nutshell in that particular game, especially on the tight end side of things. I mean, that was glaring to me. I thought, unfortunately, Buffalo Joe really struggled in that preseason outing against the Bears, which is, once again, it's unfortunate because I feel like we've been hearing a lot of great about him. And once again, it's one preseason game. Maybe it doesn't negate all the good we've heard. He was featured in games last year, several games last year, and I think he's only going to get better. And we're only a little over a year into an undrafted player here making the team, and that's going to come with its trials and tribulations, certainly. But it just wasn't that. That was one thing that I thought stood out heavily to me was him in coverage. But once again, I mean, it wasn't just him; it was a litany of guys. Anybody in coverage for the Bills last night is not free of excuse here. It was just poor. Hamlin, I mean, look at it, the big conversation right now after that game is like safety. What are we doing here? I think going into the year, obviously Taylor Rapp, you're beyond satisfied with what you're getting from 9 there. But then I think when you're looking at the rest of it, right? You're looking at who's going to be out there with him, and then you're looking at who's going to be backing that up, who's going to be relied upon when needed. And the goal, of course, in the offseason was Cole Bishop, right? That was the goal. And just very minimal practice time due to injury this offseason here, then goes in that Bears game for a limited amount of reps, and it wasn't good. And we just don't know what the deal is with him. I highly doubt you can trot Cole Bishop out in a starting role with the limited capacity in which he's been featured this offseason. I think that's probably off the table at this point. When it'll be back on the table, I have no clue. I mean, all signs are pointing to Damar Hamlin once again having to be the starting safety for this team. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, and if you think differently. Would you like to see Jordan Hancock get a shot at it, the rookie out of, the 5th round rookie? Maybe. But now he's hurt too. That was the other thing that sucked too. The one bright spot defensively. Jordan Hancock, who I think has looked really solid this preseason here, or this offseason here. Swiss Army knife type player in the secondary, can play both safety and corner. Bills have really gotten the most out of these late round guys, especially on defense. This could be another one. It's not a huge injury, I don't think. Thigh doc made it seem from what his early evaluation was, it looked like maybe a 1 to 2 week thing. But once again, right now at the safety position, your choices are essential. I mean, basically a rookie in Cole Bishop based on his experience level. Like, we're talking a notch up above a rookie in Cole Bishop. Damar Hamlin, who, I mean, if you went on Twitter last night, it was all I saw. Everyone's just over it. They're over the idea of Damar Hamlin being a starting safety on this team based on what they've seen. And then Jordan Hancock, a 5th round rookie, who is a utility guy that the Bills would put into a safety role as opposed to potentially a corner role that you would have penciled him in for prior to the start of the year here. So you're essentially taking a guy that kind of plays both ways, and you're plugging him into that position right off the bat. Or Derek Forrest, right? Who... It was not good. It was not good in that game. That seems to be the main topic of conversation post-game is the safety situation. Now, will it look better when you have your starting array of defensive front, the starting array of your defensive front in there, certainly making it more difficult to pick apart that secondary? Will it make it better when you have your starting linebackers and corners in there? Yeah, of course. But once again, I mean, you saw the numbers they flashed on the screen last night during the broadcast. this was a bad pass defense last year. Bad. So you really can't rest on your laurels here. You just can't. I mean, that's certainly a big concern of that team that has made its way into this year that you're hoping is going to be corrected. You draft Maxwell Harrison. We got to see what that's going to look like. Of course, he's not going to be ready for the year or to start the year. You're hoping Tre'Davious White's back to form. Everything we've heard out of camp is letting us believe that it's closer to that than not. Healthy Matt Milano, healthy Bernard, Taylor Rapp, Teron Johnson. But, I mean, you're really hoping that you were going to get this next step from Cole Bishop, right? You were really hoping for that. That's not really looking like it's the case right now. And the frustration seems palpable, by the way. It seems noticeable, the frustration within that. And obviously, you can only control so much. You can't control injuries. But I think McDermott was banking on Cole Bishop playing a massive role on this team. And maybe we get there. I don't know. Eventually, maybe we will get there. But as of right now, I don't think we are there midway through August. And if you're not there midway through August, how confident are you going to be in him being there, 2.5, 3 weeks from now? Then again, though, you're not going to be any more confident trotting Jordan Hancock out there. This is why I think it's going to be Damar Hamlin. I would be stunned if it was anybody else. And I think Damar Hamlin is serviceable. I think that sometimes the criticism can be a little bit much, but I also understand that Damar Hamlin's probably not your top option at a starting safety role. I think both things are true. I think Damar Hamlin was more meant to be depth for this secondary as opposed to a starter. And it's kind of just matriculated into a starting role without anybody else left to replace that role. And you have had guys that you're waiting to see if they can replace. Jordan Hancock is now going to be the newest addition to that competition. You bring in Derek Forrest. And then, of course, you're waiting to see what you have in Cole Bishop, but it just feels like as of right now, we can't confidently say any of those three guys are going to supplant Damar Hamlin at that spot. Scotty Blakely, the TV interview with Bean was uncomfortable. That was brutal. That broadcast was brutal. I mean, I don't know what Pam Oliver was asking Josh Allen. I don't know what that was. Josh, Brandon Bean, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was essentially, Brandon Bean drafted a bunch of defense. She was basically asking him, like, are you mad that they didn't draft offense once again? Did you hear him? He kind of, like, scoffed. He kind of laughed a little bit. He's like, I don't know what that was coming from. The guy just won the MVP. For the most part, everybody's been praising the offseason the Bills have had, rightfully so. Everything about it was odd. The Bean interview went way too long. They did like 3 commercial breaks worth of interviews for Bean. But this is the problem here. Here's where I'm at with this whole thing, by the way. The preseason's got to go. The preseason has got to go. What they need to do is they need to do more joint practices and less of whatever the hell last night was. And no, I'm not just saying that because the Bills got belted. I'm not just saying it because of that. I felt this way for a while. I don't think the preseason is much of a benefit to anybody anymore. And I think that the benefit that these guys trying to make the team get from those games would get the same benefit from the joint practice. I really do feel that way. I mean, that's just not good for anybody last night, that product on the field. It's not good for the NFL. It's not good for Fox. It's not good for the Bills or the teams involved. Yeah, sure, fine. It's good for the Bears. Congrats. I mean, but how great is it really? Because everybody knows that it's fool's gold. No one's expecting the Bears to go vie for the NFC Championship now because of what we saw last night. I don't think anything. I don't know if anybody benefits from this, really. The only people that benefit are the fringe guys on the roster, and I do think that those guys would benefit just as much, if not more, from a joint practice than they would something like last night. But you're putting that game on local cable television, Fox. I mean, anybody can watch that game. You're putting that game on national television in a primetime window. And even us, even the most diehard football fans in the world like you and I are sitting there watching this and can barely get through it. I mean, you can barely watch that game. I mean, you could tell me I'm wrong. And, and obviously there's some benefit to it. Real King's coming in, he's saying it's an appetizer for fans. I mean, yeah, but that appetizer is overcooked and drenched in the worst sauce you've ever had, and you're just waiting for the meal to come out. I mean, seriously. It's an appetizer that nobody wants. It's an appetizer that you ordered because you felt obligated to order it, but in reality, all you wanted was the main course. You never wanted an appetizer to begin with. If the starters were out, I mean, here's the thing I would do. Here's a good example. And I don't know if they'll ever do it because of the integrity of the game or whatever. Oh, they'll be, copying our plays or whatever. Broadcast the joint practices. I mean, Friday, we're all we know about these joint practices is what we're getting from reporters in their tweets on the scene. I would have loved to have watched a live practice of Josh Allen and the starters going against the Bears starting defense. That was a real thing the other day. We don't get to watch. And I think that's far more beneficial to the Bills and to the Bears than anything we saw last night. Right? Derek's coming in. He's saying you have to see what your young guys have. They only have 1 or 2 joint games. You're wrong. They don't tackle and practice anymore. Then start doing it. Start doing it. Have more, like I just mentioned, you're not going to completely eradicate the preseason and not put anything in place. Have more joint practices. Have more joint practices and tackle a little bit more in practice. The joint practices to me are great because you can simulate what you want to work on. Last night is a great example of why I don't think the preseason works very well. There's no pre-planning whatsoever. You're just trotting guys out there to go and do whatever. What I like about the joint practices is you can get together with the other coach and be like, hey, we want to work on this specific thing for this amount of time. Then we want to go and work on this specific thing for this amount of time. That to me is beneficial. Oh, and by the way, whatever you're working on is also being worked on by the guys who are going to be out on the field. I mean, there's a reason why you're seeing Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase playing preseason football this year. Why? Well, because Joe Burrow has won 1 game in his entire career as an NFL starter in the first 2 weeks of the season. The Bills looked atrocious, awful against the Arizona Cardinals last year in the first half. I don't know what the hell that happened at halftime for them to turn it on, and certainly they never turned it off the rest of the year. But I think that there's more benefit to everybody getting a little bit of something out of this. The joint practices, everybody gets a little bit of something. Everybody from the Bills side of things would know, don't hit Caleb Williams. Everybody from the Bears side of things would know, don't hit Josh Allen. So that way there's no worry about putting your stars out there and getting them hurt. Go and get the feel and the simulation of going against another team without all of the bull that comes with it. Getting injured or hurt or getting nailed by another guy or whatever. And then just don't broadcast it on national television. I mean, if you and I have to sit there last night and can't get through it, then I don't know how anybody else could. And the one thing the NFL does not like is a bad product. I think one of the biggest reasons we are watching this puff piece on Hard Knocks, that is the Buffalo Bills, being featured on it. I think that one of the reasons we're watching this is because the NFL watched what happened with the New York Giants on that show and said, yeah, we cannot allow this to happen again because it looks so bad. Right? I think this is why is it not a little convenient that literally out of nowhere, the NFL for years and years and years, all they've done is showcase the bottom barrel teams in the NFL on Hard Knocks. The second we watched one of the biggest blunders ever featured on the show, we watched the New York Giants single-handedly just completely bungle their top player in real time. And then all of a sudden, now we're going to feature one of the best teams in the NFL. I think there's a reason why they did that. Let's show some good here and stop making us look bad. I just think a lot of these preseason games are just bad. It's a bad product. Truth be told, I'm shocked we're still here. I'm shocked that this is still going down. And to those who, I get it, by the way, to those who are saying, we got to keep it and whatever, it's only going to keep going down. There's going to be an 18th game added here very soon. And with the addition of the 18th game is going to come a subtraction of one of these preseason games. We've already seen a substantial subtraction. It used to be what? How many preseason games did it used to be? 5, 6? We're down to 3 now. It's very soon going to be 2. And I think we're getting closer and closer to what I'm saying, where they're just going to be gone. I think the preseason is going to be gone. And once again, I'm not saying it because the Bills just got absolutely steamrolled. I'm just saying it because I just don't know who's benefiting from this. I think the guys that benefit the most are obviously the guys trying to make the roster. Those guys would benefit just as much from additional joint practices, in my opinion. I was looking this up, Colin. Used to be 4 preseason, never was 5 or 6. Yeah, somebody on Twitter last night was like, I remember when it was 6. And even I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, I don't remember that. And I was thinking maybe he meant like the 70s, so I'm looking this up right now. Yeah, he was right. How about that, Colin? Meds for you and me both. In 1970, NFL teams played 6 preseason games. So he was not wrong. Yeah, look at Andy's right. Yeah, some guy was in my mentions last night because I was just like, man, I can't believe I watched this whole thing. And somebody's like, man, I remember I had to watch 6 of these things. I'm like, really? I'm like, my God, I never had to watch 6. Yeah, 6 in the 70s. Cut down to 4 by the time the 90s rolled around. So, yeah, I mean, you've just watched that number get lower and lower. It's taken some time here, but anyway, enough. I'll get off of that high horse because, I mean, whatever. It's not going away until they at least add the 18th game, and then from there we'll see what happens. And once again, would I have been bitching about this today if the Bills would have been on the other end of that? Probably not. But, you know, it gave me the avenue to talk about it, and I do feel that way, by the way. I do feel that way. Regardless of what happened last night, does anybody like the preseason? To me, it's just like, it just is so frustrating to me. Because you're watching it and you're just like, you got to pretend like you got to pretend like it matters. You got to pretend like this and that. And it's just like, my God, can we hit the fast forward button, please? Okay. Tyrell Shavers is making this team. Good luck keeping him off this team. What argument do you have right now to keep Tyrell Shavers off this team? The guy has looked phenomenal in both last year's training camp and this year's training camp. He looked really good in preseason game 1. He was the best Buffalo Bills player in preseason game 2, offensively. And he should have had a touchdown. If Mike White didn't throw the ball in the stands on the right sideline with Tyrell Shavers running a beautifully run route, and he would have had an even bigger day. I mean, Mike White put that thing at the hot dog cart in section 310. That was a touchdown if he hit him in stride. And I was upset about that because Tyrell Shavers was by far the best offensive player on the team last night. Maybe you can make the argument for Frank Gore, but he fumbled the ball, so I'm going to give it to Tyrell Shavers. I'm also going to give it to Shavers, too, because his numbers should have been bigger. I thought Shavers looked good. I thought the route running looked good. That back shoulder catch he had, I thought, was phenomenal. He looks like a legitimate wide receiver, does he not? He doesn't just look like a guy trying to make the team. He doesn't just look like a potential special teams guy. That's a guy that looks like a wide receiver to me. And I'm watching Elijah Moore, 2 drops. I think the guys deserve I think he's earned a roster spot, in my opinion. I don't know if they're going to keep 5 or 6. The unfortunate reality here, a lot of what I've been hearing about Elijah Moore during the training camp session here, I mean, once again, it's preseason. It's 2 drops that, whatever. It's not Allen throwing him the ball, but we haven't heard a whole lot of great about Elijah Moore. And I'm not sure what the end game is there. I don't know what the end game is with Curtis Samuel. He's just not out there, right? We haven't seen him really at all this preseason, this offseason. I don't think you're going to be able to unload that contract, $7 million. I don't think anybody's trading for it. But I think Tyrell Shavers deserves a spot on this team. I'm interested to see what we got there. What I'm most excited about over this past weekend, that game be damned, is what I'm hearing about Keon Coleman, by the way. I mean, what a weekend. We're talking about these joint practices. It feels like Keon Coleman was the star of the show on the Bills end of things. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, my God, if there's one thing I'm most excited about offensively, it's the potential ascension of Zero there. And we heard a lot of great stuff coming out of the Chicago practice sessions. See, this is why I get the camera crew out at the joint practice so I can watch Keon Coleman go to work as opposed to whatever the hell I had to watch last night on national television. Please. I'll pay for it. I already got the NFL Plus subscription. Just throw it on there. Come on. Please. I want to see that. Come on, don't we all? But Tyrell Shavers, I thought was the best. He was one of the. I remember thinking to myself last night while I'm watching. I'm like, he's the one reason I'm watching this game still right now. I think he's shown some real promise. And I think he looks like a legitimate wideout. He ran a couple of great routes last night, and he made a great back shoulder catch, and he should have had a touchdown or at least a 30-plus yard gain if that ball was thrown properly. These numbers, by the way, I mean, holy cow. 528 total yards to 180. The Bills did not convert a single third down. They did not convert a single third down or a fourth down. And you want to know the one thing, by the way, I know once again, it's just, but this was the telltale sign of just slop and just not ready to go. The amount of penalties was ridiculous. I mean, you had that one sequence where Vandermark jumped off sides twice in a row. How is that even possible? You had 10 penalties for 96 yards in that game. I mean, these are the little things to me that I think do matter a bit in preseason, because it can't happen, because it's just sloppiness and it's just a lack of awareness. 10 penalties for 96 yards, and I don't care if it's a preseason or not. That's the one thing. I can't believe it took me this long to get to. That was the one thing where I'm like, come on, I mean, even at one point, Joe Davis he said, like, are we going to get a play without a penalty here? I'm like, yeah, no kidding. And, Sean saying mental errors on coaching. I mean, yeah, and this is why I think you could tell. I mean, Sean McDermott, I don't know if you watched the post-game presser last night. I mean, he seemed pissed. And he knows that's on him. I think that's probably why he was pissed. Once again, I know that we're going to just forget about this. I mean, probably by the end of the weekend, honestly. But you can't, I mean, those guys in the organization right now are not feeling great about that, because it's a bad look on them. I mean, even though it doesn't count for anything, McDermott knows that's a reflection of the guys he's been working with all offseason here. Once again, that was an even playing field for 90% of the game. Their twos versus their twos, their threes versus the Bills' threes. I mean, that's a reflection on McDermott and Bean. That's why, when they brought Bean on, by the way, I mean, hey, you got to fill the airtime, which is why, once again, doing these games on national television is certainly a choice. I mean, how much time did they spend talking about the new stadium with both Bean and Ryan Poles? But when they brought Bean on, what was it, 28-0? and they bring him on, and they're like, probably should have brought you on a little bit sooner. And Bean, what did he was just like, ugh. He would have just like, you could tell he's like, do I really? You guys really doing this to me right now? I mean, I would have given anything for Brandon Bean as soon as they brought him on to look dead in the camera and just go. And that's going to do it from the Windy City here at Soldier Field. You've been watching the NFL on Fox, and then they just cut to break and never come back. Wouldn't that have been just awesome? It would have been so funny. I mean, God, that would have been hilarious. But he, of course, he's a master. He's a master of his craft. He's up there being very diplomatic and talking. But couldn't you tell? I mean, Bean was not feeling good either. Those depth guys, if anyone's mad about it, it's Bean, because those are the guys you bring in that you're hoping to see something out of. The penalties, though, that was frustrating because, like Sean said, I mean, that's an indication of the mental errors that you just can't see from a Super Bowl caliber team, regardless of whether or not you got your thirds in there. 10 penalties for 96 yards. These are still professional football players, regardless of where they are on the depth chart. That was what I think was so frustrating about that game. It wasn't the fact that it was, a blowout. Who cares? Like I said, they got destroyed by the Bears last year. Look at the season the Bears had. Look at the season the Bills had. It doesn't really matter. It was just frustrating because didn't it not seem like a lack of effort from top down? Didn't it just seem like they never showed up at all? They didn't convert a single third down. They had 180 total yards and 96 yards of penalties. Like, as a coach, you're feeling like crap after that. Once again, I don't know how many of you guys played sports growing up, but we always had preseason games in lacrosse and football, a couple of scrimmages, whether it was with a local team or like the high school down the road or whatever. And I remember, like, after those games, our coaches were just as mad about what ended up happening as they were during the regular season. But the silver lining in that is McDermott's going to be like, hey, back to work this week, and nothing's flying. We'll see on Hard Knocks. Maybe we get a little mad McDermott on tomorrow night's episode of Hard Knocks after that. Right? Maybe we see a little bit of that. But all you ask for in the preseason is show up and give it your all. And I don't know if you can say that last night. McDermott was flat out asked. I think he was flat out asked about the effort, and he said, you don't want to say it's effort. I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, you don't want to say it's effort, but when you have a result like that, it's a collection of everything. And I think it certainly was. Let's get to some super chats here. Divine's coming in. He goes, in a weird way, not in the stakes or anything, but that game gave me the same we aren't winning, we completely mailed it in that the playoff Bengal game did. Oh, God, don't bring that up. Just straight up gross. Yeah, it was gross. I mean, if there was one word to describe it, it would be just gross. Luckily, we don't have to experience that during a 17-game regular season. Think about it like this. There are fan bases that are going to experience what we witnessed last night for 17 consecutive weeks. I mean, New Orleans Saints fans, I'm saying a prayer for you, because that's probably going to be what your season's looking like the majority of the year. And we know what it looks like to not have necessarily that bad of football on a weekly basis, but we know what it's like to be closer to that end of things and what the Bills have been the last 7 or so years. So that's the good thing here. But with as big a game as you have week 1 against the Ravens, you just want to see the mental errors not present, and you want to see the effort at max. So I hear what you're saying. We aren't winning. It did feel like that was mailed in. This is why I'm wondering, like, as you're watching that game last night, you're like, who's benefiting from this? I'm interested to see what the conversation is surrounding the Bears after that game, because it was nationally televised. Is what people are going to be. Nobody's got anything to talk about today. So that will be the main topic of conversation. And it will be funny, I'm sure, to look back at this game 2 months from now when the Bears are whatever, 2-4, and the Bills are 5-1. But all you can talk about is the most recent thing you saw. And the most recent thing you saw was a lot of bad. Richie coming in. Preseason or otherwise, I just got a notification that McDermott called out the team. In my opinion, is that right? Is that true? Richie's saying, just got a notification that McDermott called out the team. In my opinion, we're treating preseason like we've accomplished something we haven't. Oh, yeah. I got the notification here via ESPN. Not up to our standard. Bills coach Sean McDermott calls out team after blowout preseason loss. I mean, I think I think they're paraphrasing the post-game conference last night, because that's what he said during the post-game presser. He said he's concerned about a lot of things, and he had said that was not up to our standard last night. So maybe that's just maybe ESPN's taking that and then saying he called out the team through that. I mean, I guess you could say that. It did feel like he was kind of calling out the team last night in that post-game presser. Could you blame him? Now, I was telling Rico and Pierre and Bobby, and when we were in Thigh Doc, we were talking last night. I said, if I'm McDermott, at first I said, I just pretend this never happened, right? I wouldn't even bring this game up. I said, if the game's brought up, just say, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't play the Bears. What the hell are you talking about? That didn't happen. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you can't go that way. You can't go that route because it did happen, and there's something to learn from that. I mean, those guys need to be. The guys that were featured in that game in a prominent role last night need to be held accountable after that. And I'm sure McDermott's going to make that case this week. And luckily for us, we got a Hard Knocks episode coming our way tomorrow. Now, granted, the last 2 weeks have been it's been a Lifetime movie for the Bills the last 2 weeks, which has been great. I've enjoyed it. But maybe we see a little fire lit underneath McDermott and the rest of the guys on tomorrow night's episode. And then Richie's also saying our depth looks like this next game, it's a concern. My takeaway from last night is if one of the primary guys in the secondary goes down defensively, like if Taylor Rapp were to suffer a couple of games worth of an injury, right? If he were to go down, which we've seen in the past, if Taylor Rapp were to suffer an injury, how are you feeling about the secondary with him out? Not great. And, Videsh is saying this, and this is what I think was disheartening about last night. Because I was, the conductor of this train, on this channel at least, chewing down the track on how excited I was for the defense. As I still am. I mean, what I saw from Joey Bosa in limited reps against the Giants, I really liked. What I saw from the D front against the Giants, I really liked. Secondary still got carved up by the Giants, by the way, last week. I am optimistic about this defense. I am excited about this defense and the potential for sure. But it does kind of throw a wrench into that excitement a bit when you do see last night and you do see faces from, you do see faces that you're excited about and the potential of, and it just didn't culminate into anything. To me, though, right, it's 12 hours or so removed from that game. I think you have the right to complain a little bit about it as a fan. And I think you're McDermott, you have the right to get on these guys about it. But this will be in the rear view very quickly. And in the grand scheme of things, not going to matter much. If anything, you just hope that you take from it a learning point where we need to clear up the mental mistakes. We have got to find a way to solidify this back end of the defense. Avex he's crowning Tyler Bagent the best second string quarterback in the NFL. Let me tell you something. I was impressed with what I saw from him. I like that kid. Bagent. He's undrafted, isn't he? They did a story on him, I think, last year, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he is. He's an undrafted free agent. Bagent. I remember they did a story on him. They featured his dad. His dad's a coach or something, I believe, or something. I remember watching a story on him. It was a cool story. His kind of rise to becoming a backup quarterback. He was fun to watch. This is why I'm like, you can take away whatever you want from that start from Caleb Williams. Sure, yeah, they went up and down the field, but I thought Bagent was the best player on the field last night. Speaking of quarterback, Mike White, not good last night. Now, this was brought up in the post-game presser. When Mitch Trubisky got the start against the Giants, he got the start with a good share of the starters. Mike White did not. even though he got to play the full first half last night. But 4 of 11, 54 yards. The biggest problem with Mike White, outside of his own errors, I mean, he had a couple of balls that were just nowhere close, including that one to Tyrell Shavers. He could have completely changed the narrative on his game last night if he would have hit Shavers on that pass. But the offensive line that he was playing behind was not doing him any favors. He didn't have a second to breathe. He didn't have a second to collect his thoughts in that backfield last night. But I think we saw the QB2 role get solidified. Not that Trubisky was looking like Tom Brady out there, but I think with Mike White's role last night, it didn't do him any favors. I think we saw an arrow down from Mike White and probably Mitch Trubisky solidified at the QB2 spot. Not that I think it was trending that way. It has been a battle and a topic of conversation throughout the offseason here, who's going to win the QB2 role. And, I do think that Mike White was doing a serviceable job of allowing himself to be considered in that conversation. Last night, of course, didn't do him any favors. I would imagine Mitch Trubisky is penned in at QB2. And I think we got that. We were getting that vibe anyways with him getting the start against the Giants with the starters, Mike White getting the start the following game with the seconds. But yeah, speaking of quarterbacks, I would just, last night was one other thing that just stood out would be that Mike White, despite the poor offensive line play, which it was poor, despite that, the moments where he did have an opportunity to make a play, just wasn't able to do it. But they weren't able to do anything, really. They only ran like 40 offensive plays. Frank Gore looked great. He looked great last preseason, too. I think Frank Gore has been the best preseason running back thus far. But the real bright spot to me offensively was Tyrell Shavers, and I'm very excited to see what they end up doing there. I think he makes the team. And then it's just a matter of how many receivers do they end up keeping. Elijah Moore, I don't think he did himself any favors last night with 2 drops. And one of the drops was on a screen pass too, by the way, which I think is where you're gonna see him excel the most in those type of plays. In terms of a couple flashes, though, like I said, Jordan Hancock I thought had a couple of good plays. Deion Walker I thought had a couple of decent plays. But I'm grasping at straws here. There just wasn't a whole lot. We got to look at the virtual measurement again, by the way, last night. Really interested to see how that plays a role in the year this season. I'm wondering, every time they go to a virtual measurement, though, do you think they're going to have to go to commercial? Whenever you see soccer or tennis go to the virtual measurement for the inbounds or offsides, they do it in real time. I'm wondering if that's going to be the case, or if every time we see a virtual measurement, we're going to have to go to commercial and it's going to be a 5-minute ordeal. My guess is that's probably what it's going to be. Vadesh is saying Hoyt looked good. I agree. He's looked good the last 2 weeks. 6 weeks suspension, obviously, but he's looked like a force that I'm excited to get out on the field there come mid-October. Sean's saying that the virtual measurement seems pointless because it's based on where they spot the ball. It's certainly a step forward. This is technology the NFL should have implemented a decade ago. And of course, now the Bills are they're the reason that it's now a reality. Of course, once again, everybody blames the Bills for the betterment of the league. We get better overtime rules because of the Bills. We get now better measurements because of the Bills. Sorry, the Bills were on the wrong end of everything that resulted in a better game for everybody. Sorry. The NFL, once again, rule changing for the Bills. Yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah, nothing I take away more than the Bills being on the wrong side of everything, and then things getting changed because of that. Oh, yeah, benefiting the Bills. Yeah, benefiting them so much that they had to be the guinea pig for everything to get changed, right? I mean, yeah, big benefit to Buffalo. Big benefit to the Buffalo Bills being on the wrong end of everything that resulted in change. I mean, give me a break. Sal's making a decent point here. You know, the Bills left it on the scrimmage field. Bears needed to fire up the fan base. The Bears needed that last night far more than the Bills did. It's a good point, Sal. I mean, they certainly did. The Bears needed that far more than the Bills did. That's why you saw the starting unit out there for the Bears last night. And we heard a lot of good about the Bills from that, you know, from that joint practice. Oh, Josh Allen threw 3 interceptions. Good. Throw 6 interceptions. Figure the windows out now. Allen threw 6 interceptions last year. I'm not concerned about Allen throwing 3 picks in the joint practice. I'm glad he's doing that. You're getting real action against an opposing team. Figure out the windows now. Figure out what's going to work and what isn't. But we heard a lot of good, right? Joey Bosa, a couple of sacks. Keon Coleman looking really good. This is why I feel a little bit better about the situation this past weekend, because they did have that joint practice. But my whole thing here is I'm glad we can just be hey, let's enjoy the frustration right now. Because my hope is that we're not on here being frustrated about much over the next several months. Yeah, BT saying, you know, it's always funny to me how, you know, when something helps the whole league and you got Twitter fans saying, of course, anything to help the Bills. Yeah, I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not want better measurement? I'm sorry. Did you not want more fair and equal and just overall better overtime rules? I'm sorry. Did you not want that? Don't want the game to be any? You don't want the game to advance and be better? I mean, if anything, you should be thanking us. Thank us. Thank the Bills fan base that had to be on the wrong end of all those things and suffer through all those things for the betterment of the game. How about a little bit of kudos to us? Eddie's saying, reports out of practice where Bears gave us a handful. No, the Bears look good too, from what I had heard. The silver lining there would be that, not that the bar is awfully high, but, you know, Sal Capaccio asked one of the Bears reporters the difference. What was the difference between practicing against the Miami Dolphins and practicing against the Buffalo Bills? And the Bears reporter said it was night and day. One of the reasons, too, why I hate the preseason is because, you know, we have to come on here and talk about this. And you know, we're an hour in. What could I have come on here for an hour about and talked about positively? There was nothing. But then again, like literally a week from now, this will be forgotten about. We'll never talk about this again. This is why it's so like it's you're frustrated, even though you know it doesn't matter. I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated, and it doesn't matter. This is why the preseason is just, it's something else. Linda's coming in. Morning, Linda. Totally off subject, but if you have a boy bot, I really am rooting for his name to be Bam Bam Bot. Wow. Let me run that by Caroline. I'm sure she'll love it. Actually, that's fun. Speaking of, recently had a baby shower for Caroline, and we got some fun stuff. We got a custom Bills swaddle that my mom got us. And I got to show you guys this. I don't have it off hand right now, but I'll show you when I have it. Custom Bills swaddle. So it's got the Bills helmet all over it, the Bills logo all over it. It's blue and red. And then on it, it says Baby Bot all over it, which is sweet. And I think we'll be bringing the baby home, boy or girl, because it doesn't matter. Baby girl bot, baby boy bot is going to be a big Bills fan, Baby Bot. So they'll be coming home in the Bills swaddle. But we also got a couple of Bills onesies, my personal favorite, some Bills binkies, which are sweet. The royal blue binky with the Bills logo on the front, loving that. Got some Penn State. I got some Penn State onesies and a little beanie and some footies, which are cool. But we got some cool Bills gear. My mom also found this book. It's an ABC book all about the Bills. So every page of the book is a letter, and then it has something to do with either the Bills or football. So I think in it was like H was Hall of Fame, and it had like a picture of Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas, and then one was J. I think Josh Allen is the J or whatever. So that was really cool. I mean, it's just fun stuff like that you're like, oh, this is great. But Bam Bam Bot, Linda, I will run it by Caroline because we are, of course, still shopping names as we are 2.5 months out from the arrival of Baby Bot. Now, this is going to be the struggle here, Heath. Bot's going to have to share his little people. Nope, just going to have to get 2 sets because you know me. I can't unbox them. The collector in me refuses to open the box, so we're going to have to get 2 sets. One for Baby Bot to play with, one for Big Bot, a.k.a. Big Baby Bot, to have on his shelf. We can't be diving into the collectibles. We got to be getting 2 sets. But yeah, the Baby Bot little people, we're set up, man. We got the Baby Bot gear. The Bills Baby Bot gear has been rolling in. One thing that we were gifted that I'm excited about, we got that looks like a kangaroo pouch. Because I got a million nieces and nephews. And you ever pick them up and carry them around? I mean, obviously, I'm new to the game here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not used to carrying around a baby. And when I do carry around my nieces and nephews, man, it doesn't take long for you to be like, oh my God, you weigh 100 pounds, even though you weigh 15. And we got this kangaroo pouch. So you put it on, and then you put the baby in the pouch. Now that's what I'm talking about. So Baby Bot in the pouch during a Bills game with the Bills binky in, and we're just going nuts. That's what I'm looking forward to. Richie's saying, Bot, Wegmans is dangerous, huh? Yeah, so I was at Wegmans over the weekend up in Rochester. I didn't realize they have some cool stuff. They got a bunch of like Josh Allen MVP gear, like MVP water bottles and whatnot. But go check out my Twitter. I saw this awesome custom piece that they have. It's because I don't know if I've said this before, but I'm a vinyl collector. I collect everything really. I have a huge record collection, and it's almost all Dave Matthews. They had a Bills record, and it was called like MVP Records, and it was a custom album cover of all these cool pictures of Josh Allen, and then it had the actual vinyl record, and it's got MVP carved into the vinyl with Allen's diving touchdown against the Niners carved into it. Super cool. If you're at Wegmans anytime, in the foreseeable future, go check out the Bills section. They got some cool stuff. I should have bought it. I've been trying to be good, not buying any more frivolous things than I need. It was only $50. I was good and didn't buy it. Eventually, I'm going to have to get my hands on that. But if you're out at Wegmans, go check that out. They got some cool stuff. That was probably my favorite thing that they had. But they have like MVP water bottles with Allen on it and stuff. So, worth checking out. Reading through some more comments here before we close up shop. Dwight's saying, what are we going to do at safety? I don't know. I think as of right now, I think week 1, Sunday Night Football against the Ravens, if I had to make the educated guess, it's going to be Rapp and Hamlin. What it's going to be throughout the duration of the season, and then looking back, who's going to have the bulk share of the starting safety reps, I think that remains to be seen. Could they end up going with Jordan Hancock at some point? My guess, unlikely. Rookie, two-way player at both corner and safety, but he's shown flashes. Could there be potential there? My guess is it wouldn't happen unless it was necessary. And if it's necessary, probably not great, because that would probably tell us that injuries have been suffered in the secondary. You would like it to be Cole Bishop, but with the lack of reps, with the injury history, I don't think it's trending in that direction for the start of the year. Will we eventually get there? I'm hoping, but only about a dozen reps in that Sunday night game, and it wasn't great, but he wasn't out there with the starters either. Will it be better when he's around the core of the defense? My guess is yes, but we can't get there yet with such a lack of reps and with the injury history here. He's just not ready. You bring in Derek Forrest. Feels like we haven't heard much of anything about Derek Forrest throughout the offseason here, no? And the things we have heard, it hasn't been glowing. So the safety, if there's one question you have after that game that means something for the regular season, it's what's the situation going to be at safety? Bartek, 57-month member, by the way. Good God. God bless you, Bartek. Appreciate you, brother. Luckily, you have Uncle Rico for valuable knowledge for any question you may have regarding boys or girls. I know Rico's been through the ringer. Rico's littlest is what, 2 now, and then his oldest is in college. So yeah, Rico's got all the wisdom ready to instill onto me, and he knows it. He keeps telling me I'm here, and I know he is, and I'm gonna need it because Rico's got he's got the reps in at every age, both boy and girl. So Explo saying, where is Rico? Is he going to be back for the regular season? Well, Rico was on last night late. So when you're done here, go watch what Rico had to say. He was on for about an hour or so last night after the game. But yeah, we'll be back ready to roll. I know the Friday shows have been limited. This was a bad month for Rico and I on Fridays. We try to get as much in as we can during August because we know we're going to be locked in on here throughout the year, almost every night, really, the way things go. So I've been out of town and will be out of town the next couple of weekends here. I'll probably do something this weekend because this is the one weekend this August where I'm not gone. I'm gone next week for Labor Day. Rico's out of town the next 2 weeks during the weekend. But then as soon as the regular season rolls around, back to your regular scheduled programming. So obviously pregame, postgame for every Bills game, Monday night with me, Tuesday night with Rico, Friday nights, Rico and Bot. And we really can't wait. We're excited. We think this is going to be the best year yet, not only for our Bills, but right here on the BF YouTube channel. So everything that you're used to and more will be coming your way within the next couple of weeks here. I know it's been a little bit all over the place this August just because we've been out of town a bunch. But as soon as the regular season starts, we're right back to your regular scheduled programming, which I cannot wait for, by the way. Loaded up with more than ever coming your way, too. So we're very excited, all of us. You know, Expo saying it. I think this is like everybody, you know. Yeah, he goes, when I tune in the most is for the regular season. I don't take preseason too serious. It's the way to do it. You know, I've been talking to all my buddies in the YouTube space, not just Bills, but, you know, I do a lot of other shows. I do the NFC West and NFC East, AFC North. And we were all talking, and they're like, man, you know, it's just, everybody's still not into it, even though it's the preseason. And I don't blame everybody. You know, no, I don't think everybody really dives fully in until the regular season starts. I mean, obviously, you're ready to rock right now. You're still watching, whatever. Obviously, you guys are. You guys are here no matter what's going on. You're here whether it's May or whether it's January. That's why you guys are the best. But obviously, you get a far bigger contingency of people coming out of the woodwork when the regular season rolls around, and we're almost there. Mako's coming in. He's saying, I'll be going to week 2 versus the Jets, as will I. I'll let you know where I'm at here on the stream, Mako. We'll have to meet up and say, hey, I'll be there with Thydoc and Caroline and a couple of my family members because that's my home venue now. MetLife's my home venue. So week 2, I'll be there at MetLife. I know it was rough for the Bills last night, but it's been looking really rough for the Jets, by the way. Word out of the Jets camp thus far is the offense could look as bad as it ever has. I saw a tweet from someone out of the Jets camp that said there is potential for the Jets offense to look worse than it did in the middle of the Zach Wilson era. And I don't know if you guys watched the limited reps that Justin Fields had against the Giants in their preseason game over the weekend, but it was not good. Cody's saying, yeah, it was the preseason, but let's be honest. Those were our starting safeties who started the game, bro. Hamlin has been our starter. And this is why, you know, earlier when I said it really is meaningless, there was a couple of meaningful elements to that game last night, and that was the most concerning one. It was the secondary and the safety position. Taylor Rapp not out there, right? But, yeah, Hamlin has been a starter for this team the last couple of years. He was out there, and it was not good. You're not entirely sure who's going to be fulfilling that second safety role? So you also had Cole Bishop out there for limited reps. Wasn't good. You had Derek Forrest out there. Wasn't good. So, yeah, I totally hear you, Cody. Totally hear you. You're hoping that this is going to be an afterthought once we get into the regular season. But if there's one thing that is unanimously being discussed after that game last night, it is the safety position, because that did feature personnel that you're expecting to see during the regular season. And then this is where my frustration had stemmed from. It was seeing the guys that you're expecting to see something from during the games that matter the most not really look the part last night. And that was Hamlin, that was Bishop, that was Buffalo Joe, a couple of the guys up front. I've been waiting to see something from Landon Jackson. We haven't seen it yet. So time will tell. A team that's won 10-plus games routinely here, 5 straight AFC East titles. I'm not going to diminish my 2025 expectations at the hands of a 38-0 loss in the preseason to the Bears, but you just didn't want to see that, is the best way to put it. You just didn't want to see a near historic beatdown in terms of the preseason if you didn't have to, especially on a national stage where you're trying to figure out your roster and you're trying to figure out the depth and position, rotational position and whatever else. And, Cody's saying that we need to see something from Bishop. Everybody's waiting. I think nobody more than McDermott, right? It's just, it hasn't been easy. That's what sucks. It's just, he's been hurt. And with the amount of time missed, factoring into how close they are to the season, you just have to wonder if you're going to be able to see something in time. You don't want to have to get the learning curve out of the way in the midst of the regular season. But maybe that ends up being what the reality is. Hillslayer saying, they're just sowing the seeds for doubt. They're just sowing the seeds of the doubt for the haters so we can prove them wrong again. Thad Brown tweeted out last night, and I'll leave you with this. Thad Brown tweeted out last night, quote, "That's the worst Bills preseason loss in 50 years of preseason games as far as how far he could research back." So basically, whatever data is available on the preseason, if you look through the entirety of that data, that was the worst preseason loss the Bills have had in 50 years. The previous record was a 35-3 loss in 1997, so the year I was born, to the Chiefs, of course. Why not? So this is the worst loss the Bills have had in almost 30 years in the preseason. But Thad Brown would go on to say, the last time the Buffalo Bills got thumped that bad in a preseason game at Chicago was 35-7 in 1990, whatever. So the old record was 35-3, 97 against KC. Last time Buffalo got thumped that bad in a preseason game at Chicago was 35-7 in 1990. That team, of course, later went on to its first Super Bowl. So as I like to say, it's all part of the plan. As you were saying, Hillslayer, just sowing the seeds of doubt to come back to the haters and say, told you. All part of the plan. Last time the Bills got beat this bad against the Bears in a preseason matchup, they were Super Bowl bound. So it's all part of the plan. All right, that's going to do it. Hour and a half in the books on a Monday morning, recapping a 38-0 drubbing in the Week 2 preseason game against the Chicago Bears. Put it in the rear view. Don't let it ruin your week. Great week ahead. Hope you all enjoy it. More preseason action coming your way this upcoming weekend. And then we're done, right? Then we're done with preseason ball, and it's sights set on the regular season. One more to go this upcoming Saturday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team, by the way, the Bills will face in the regular season. So a rare opportunity to see a team, a non-conference team that they'll be facing in the regular season, get a chance to see them in the preseason here. But one more to go. That'll wrap it up. And then the following weekend, right, college football is completely back, opens up with some bangers, including Texas, Ohio State, Labor Day weekend. And then Thursday, September 4th, Eagles, Cowboys kick things off. Friday game, the Chiefs playing in that Friday game, that international game. Then the Bills are on Sunday, the 7th, against the Ravens. So we're getting there. Don't let this derail you. I'm not going to let it derail me. If anything, I'm the bad guy here. If anything, I'm the bad guy for allowing myself to watch all that. What we should have done is just turn it off and pretend that we didn't watch it, because it's not going to matter. All we can hope for is the safety position ends up working itself out. That's the one thing you take from that game and say, can we work that safety position out? Let's hope it's better. Let's hope it's solidified. Let's hope we can get some health at that position and have that be an afterthought. Also, no more 10 penalty type games. Can't be having it. Those are the two things. And then the positive, Tyrell Shavers, loved it. Let's hope he makes the team and see what we got in him, because I think he's earned it. But anyway, that's going to do it. Hour and a half in the books here on a Monday morning. Appreciate you spending it with me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll be back with you later on in the week to talk about Bills Bucks to wrap up the preseason. But in the meantime, on the way out the door, like button if you could, subscribe button if you could, and I'll talk to you later in the week. So enjoy the rest of your Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, much love. And go Bills.